Stop for a second and really hear this. The person you keep thinking about is not silent because nothing is there. They are silent because something inside them has become too heavy to speak in an easy way. And if you have been taking that quiet as a sign that they do not care, stay with me, because what you are about to understand could change the way you read every pause, every delay, every strange moment between you. This is not random. This is not you imagining signs. This is not one of those small surface connections that fades and means nothing. There is something deeper happening here. You felt it before you could explain it. That charged stillness, that strange pull, that sense that words are missing but feelings are not. And here is the part most people never see. Silence does not always mean distance. Sometimes silence is the loudest proof that a person is feeling more than they know how to carry. So before you decide they have moved on, before you close the door in your heart, listen closely. Because the quiet they have been giving you may not be emptiness at all. It may be pressure, it may be fear, it may be emotion building behind the scenes, trying to find a way out without breaking everything in the process. And if this is your story, you already know something about their silence has never felt normal. It has felt alive. It has felt loaded. It has felt like a message that has not yet turned into words. The biggest mistake people make when someone goes quiet is simple. They think no words means no feeling. They think if the care were real, it would show up clearly, it would speak, it would reach out, it would explain itself. But human emotion does not always work like that. In fact, some of the deepest feelings do the exact opposite. They do not rush forward. They do not become smooth conversation. They do not arrive in perfect sentences. They become still. They become hard to name. They become so full that language starts failing. Think about your own life for a moment. The times you were truly overwhelmed, truly moved, truly shaken by something real. Did words come easily then? Or did you sit there staring into space, trying to understand what was happening inside you because every sentence felt too small? That is what deep feeling does. It can silence a person. Not because there is nothing to say, but because too much is happening at once. The person who has gone quiet around you is not standing there with an empty mind. They are standing under emotional weight they do not yet know how to lift into language. They feel the meaning of this connection. They feel the risk of speaking too soon or speaking badly. They feel the pressure of knowing that once the truth is said, it cannot be taken back. That kind of pressure does not create easy conversation. It creates pauses. It creates distance. It creates silence that is full of emotion but still has no safe place to land. And this is why you need to keep listening, because the next part matters even more. When someone pulls back, the person left waiting almost always turns inward and starts blaming themselves. You replay every message. You review every conversation. You ask what you did wrong, what you should have said, what you should not have said, whether you were too much, whether you cared too openly, whether something in you pushed them away. But most of the time, their withdrawal is not a judgment on your worth. It is a reaction to something happening inside them. That difference changes everything. Their silence is not a final statement about who you are. It is a reflex, and reflexes happen fast. They happen before logic. They happen before self-awareness. The human mind is built to protect itself, and when something feels too real, too strong, too life-changing, that protective system can activate before the person even understands why. It creates space the same way the body pulls back from heat. Not because the heat has no value, but because the system does not yet know how to stay close without being changed by it. And that is what makes this pattern so painful. The deeper the connection, the stronger the reflex can become. So the person receiving the distance sees it as proof they do not matter, when in truth it may be happening because they matter too much. Their retreat is often about their emotional capacity, not your value. Read that again in your heart. Their retreat is about their capacity, not your value. Stay with me, because once this clicks, you stop reading silence in the old way. A lot of people assume that intense feeling and easy expression naturally go together. They think if someone feels something deeply, they will show it clearly. They imagine real emotion always becomes visible emotion. But that is not how many deep people work. Feeling and expression are not the same gift. A person can carry a huge emotion inside and still have no clean access to the words needed to explain it. In fact, the bigger the feeling gets, the wider the gap can become. A shallow stream moves quickly. It makes noise. It is easy to see, but a deep river moves differently. From the surface, it can look almost still, even while it carries enormous force underneath. That is what some people are like when they really care. Their silence is not a sign that they have nothing to give. It is often a sign that what they feel has grown so large that every available sentence feels too small, too simple, too weak for the truth inside them. Casual feelings create casual conversation. Deep feelings move slowly, carefully, sometimes painfully. They take time to rise to the surface. And often, the silence before the words says more than the words ever could. That is why their quiet feels different from indifference. You can sense that it is heavy. You can sense that something is being held back. You can feel that there is movement under the stillness even if you cannot prove it. That feeling is not foolish. That feeling is not delusion. Sometimes your intuition notices emotional weight long before language catches up. And if this is speaking to your situation, do not click away yet, because what comes next explains why real connection makes people go inward before they move forward. When someone you care about goes quiet, it feels personal because you are the one living inside that silence. But what looks like they are pulling away from you is often them being pulled deeper into themselves. The quiet is not always a wall built against you. Sometimes it is a room they have entered alone because what this connection awakened inside them cannot be ignored anymore. Real connection does not just bring warmth, it stirs the foundation. It forces a person to face parts of themselves they had learned to avoid. It asks questions they were comfortable never answering. Who am I when something real appears? What do I actually want? Can I show up honestly for something meaningful, or will I hide inside distance and control again? Those are not light questions. They shake a person. They disturb old identities. They expose old habits. And when that process begins, silence can become the only honest response for a while. Not because they do not care, but because they are trying to understand what your presence has started inside them. Sometimes a person goes quiet, not because they are leaving the connection, but because the connection has taken them somewhere inside themselves they are not yet prepared to explain. If that hits close to home, keep listening. Because there is another layer to this: old pain, old disappointments, old moments when being open cost them more than they were ready to lose. Those old injuries do not disappear just because someone new and real appears. They stay hidden until something meaningful touches them. And when that happens, silence is often the first sign that the deeper layers are waking up. There is something buried inside many quiet people that most others never fully notice. It does not announce itself. It does not walk into the room wearing a label. It simply lives in the way they respond to closeness, in the way they react when something genuine starts to matter. When a real bond appears, that hidden pain activates, not as a planned choice, not as a game, not as a cold strategy. It activates like an old wound touched by pressure. Fast, automatic, almost invisible from the outside. This is what unresolved pain really does. It does not always make someone dramatic or obviously broken. Sometimes it freezes them exactly when movement matters most. From the outside, that freeze can look like indifference. It can look like a lack of care. It can look like disinterest. But inside, the truth is often the opposite. Inside, they are so affected that the feeling has nowhere safe to go. The emotion is real. The care is real. The weight is real. But standing between what they feel and what they can express is every old memory of being hurt, every moment when honesty backfired, every time they opened their heart and regretted it later, every time they were left carrying the meaning of something alone. All of that history forms a barrier between feeling and action. So even when they want to move closer, something in them says, stop, wait, be careful, protect yourself. And that inner stop can create a silence so strong that the person on the other side mistakes it for absence. But absence is not always what you are seeing. Sometimes you are seeing a nervous system trying to survive closeness it has not yet learned to trust. The easy reading of silence is that nothing is happening, that the story has paused, that the connection is fading. That stillness means there is no movement at all. But the most important things that happen inside a human being rarely announce themselves in obvious ways. Real change is quiet. Real inner work is quiet. Real emotional shifting often happens in private, invisible hours that no one else gets to witness. It happens when a person is alone with their own thoughts, with their own fear, with their own truth, slowly letting everything reorganize beneath the surface. From the outside, that can look like nothing. It can look like delay. It can look like passivity. But inside, something major may be taking shape. What you are witnessing in their silence may not be a stopped heart. It may be a person who has gone so far inward that outward expression would feel false before the process is ready. They cannot speak it yet because it is still forming. They cannot label it yet because they are still becoming the version of themselves that can carry it honestly. And this is why rushing them, forcing clarity, or deciding too quickly what their silence means can sometimes destroy something that was still trying to become real. Now, that does not mean you abandon your self-respect. It does not mean you wait forever. But it does mean you read the moment with more depth, because there is a difference between someone who is empty and someone who is in process. There is a difference between cold distance and loaded stillness. If you have felt the difference, trust that. That instinct matters. And the next piece may be the most important one of all, so stay with me here. Most people think what stops someone from speaking is fear of rejection, and yes, that can be part of it. But for many quiet people, the deeper fear is not hearing no. The deeper fear is being misunderstood. Rejection hurts, but at least rejection leaves the truth standing in one piece. A person speaks honestly, offers something real, and the other person says no. Painful, yes, but clean, clear, understandable. Being misunderstood is different. Being misunderstood means the truth they finally gathered the courage to reveal gets received through the wrong lens. It gets reduced. It gets simplified. It gets mistaken for something smaller than it really was. That kind of pain can make a person even more silent than rejection ever could. Because now they are not just afraid of losing the connection. They are afraid of offering something sacred and watching it be treated like something ordinary. They are afraid that the feeling they have been protecting will come out imperfectly and be read as casual, temporary, or shallow when it was never any of those things. So they wait. They hold it in. They search for words that feel precise enough to protect the truth from distortion. They stay quiet longer than they should, not because the emotion is weak, but because it is important. They are trying to say it right. They are trying not to break it in the act of revealing it. And yes, sometimes that waiting goes too far. Sometimes silence creates pain of its own. But if you want to understand the heart of what is happening, this is part of it. They do not want to say the wrong thing about the right feeling, and that is why their quiet can last far longer than anyone expects. Beneath almost every long silence, there is a question that rarely gets spoken aloud. Not a statement, not a final answer. A question. And the question is bigger than it first appears. It lives in the pause. It lives in the unsent message. It lives in every conversation that almost reached the truth and then stopped at the edge. The question is this: will you still be there when I finally know how to cross the distance? Will you still be present when the silence ends? Will you still understand that my quiet was not an ending, but a struggle? Many people never realize that silence can be asking something. They only experience the discomfort of waiting and rush to turn that discomfort into a conclusion. They decide quiet means done. They fill in the blank space with their own ending. They protect themselves by shutting the door before the other person finds the courage to open theirs. And sometimes that self-protection answers the silent question in the most painful way possible. It confirms the fear that created the silence in the first place. The fear of being too difficult to wait for, too much work to understand, too slow to trust, too damaged to stay for. That does not mean you are required to wait endlessly. But it does mean the silence may contain a hidden test of reality, not of your obedience, not of your weakness, but of your ability to hold uncertainty without killing what has not finished growing. This is deep territory, and if you are still here, then part of you already knows this is not just theory. It is something you have lived, something you have felt from the other side of a silence that never fully made sense until now. So let this settle in you. The person who has gone quiet around you is not always a mystery to solve with pressure, distance, or pride. They may be a human being standing inside one of the hardest inner experiences there is, carrying something too large for ordinary language, defending themselves against a feeling that has already gone beyond their old limits, facing parts of themselves your presence woke up without warning, processing pain that existed before you ever arrived, changing in ways that have no immediate surface proof, trying to find words strong enough and careful enough to carry what they feel without damaging it. And under all of that, asking in silence whether you will still be there when they finally know how to speak. This is why some of the deepest stories do not begin with loud declarations. They begin with tension, with pauses, with glances, with unfinished thoughts, with silence that feels too alive to ignore. If that is the energy around this person, do not dismiss it too fast. Look deeper. Stay steady. Protect your peace, yes, but do not let fear make every quiet moment mean the worst. Sometimes silence is not someone leaving. Sometimes it is someone getting closer in the most hidden way possible. And that is why the next move matters so much. Because when a quiet person finally speaks from a real place, it usually does not come out small. It comes out carrying everything they have been holding back, everything they were scared to name, everything that took time to become clear inside them. And if that moment comes, you will understand why the silence felt heavy long before it made sense. Before you decide what their quiet means, understand what it may actually be. Not the end, not indifference, not proof that you imagined the connection. It may be someone trying, in the only way they currently know how, to reach the beginning of something real enough to finally be spoken out loud. So do not rush the meaning, do not force the story, do not let one season of silence erase every sign that there was depth here. Stay aware, stay grounded, stay honest with yourself. If you need to step back for your peace, do that with clarity, not bitterness. But if your heart has been telling you that this silence is full, not empty, do not ignore that either. Some people speak early and mean little. Some people speak late and mean everything. Some people need time not because they are careless, but because they understand the weight of what they feel and they do not want to handle it badly. And when that kind of person finally comes forward, it is different. The tone is different. The eyes are different. The truth lands differently because it has been lived with in silence first. If this message found you at the right time, hold on to this one thought. Quiet does not always mean they have nothing to say. Sometimes it means what they need to say has become too important to say carelessly. And if the connection between you is real, the silence will not stay silence forever. One day it will either open into truth or close into final clarity. But until that day arrives, do not mistake stillness for emptiness. Sometimes the deepest feeling makes the least noise until the very moment it is finally ready to be heard.